Good morning, my fellow Martians. Welcome to another episode of Mixed Martian Arts. My name is Austin Shaper, and this is a daily show where we explore the topics of UAP, UFC, and World War III. Diving into today's topic, I'm going to ask real quick that you guys subscribe to the channel. It's a free and quick way to support me. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Let's dive right in. So I was listening yesterday on my route at work. I got a lot of time to listen to podcasts and videos and whatnot when I'm on the road. And I was listening to the Mike Baker, Joe Rogan episode on Joe's podcast. Mike Baker is like this ex-CIA guy. He's been on like 100 times. I do like him. A lot of people have like kind of negative feedback about him and say he just rambles on and on without really saying anything or getting to a point. I do think that's kind of true as well. But they ended up bringing up the UAP topic. And Joe was asking Mike, from the CIA's perspective, from his government career's perspective, what does he think about the phenomenon? Is it real? Is it fake? And they just dove into it. Sorry, guys, I got terrible allergies this morning, so just bear with me. But yeah, so he was asking Mike his take on it, and Mike and Rogan kind of speculated on a couple ideas, and I wanted to touch on those ideas because I thought that there was a lot of stuff they weren't considering in their little debate about UFOs. And the top one being, one of the things that Mike Baker, the CIA guy, alleged is he said it's too difficult for the government to keep secrets. He said he didn't really believe that this was he was open-minded enough to say that this was possible, that they were beings from another place, and he was open-minded in that regard, but he did also say that his prevailing theory is that the government would not be able to keep a secret, and that the government is not good at keeping secrets. And I thought there was a giant hole in that theory, and for numerous reasons. And I should say off the bat that I'm not an authority on this. I have no high ground to stand on. I am just speculating. Is it possible that these craft, that these UFOs are American tech? Is it possible? 100% it's possible. I mean, I would be an absolute fool to rule that out completely. It's definitely possible. I just don't think it's probable, and there's a few reasons for that. Let's just go over the first speculation point that you hear all the time. The government would not be able to keep this a secret. The government sucks at keeping secrets. One, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I understand the sentiment because a lot of things from the government leak, scandals, and all kinds of things of that type do end up leaking. But here's the thing. Even little scandals, let's just go over this Biden corruption thing with taking the $20 million that's in the House Oversight Committee. They've got bank records and stuff now, so I guess it's moved on to another phase. Don't really keep up with it that much, but we'll bring it up for the purpose of this point. That happened, that whole event charade that was going on when he was vice president was in 2008 with the Obama administration. So even something like that, which albeit it is a big deal, but I'm talking in comparison to secret tech or, some of the biggest cover-ups that are possible in the government. This is obviously not at the top of that list. So let's just say, a corrupt president, a corrupt politician, that's not exactly a rare thing in this world. It's the most common thing. So that was that 2008 and it's 2023. So that took 15 years? You guys can do the math on that, but a long time for that to even surface, and even then it still hasn't been prosecuted or brought fully to the American public, and that's a financial scandal. So yes, it's possible. I understand the sentiment that secrets do leak in the government. That is true, but now here's the flip side of that. Mike Baker was basing his opinion on, government can't keep secrets, and I kind of know that because that was my experience with the government. Okay, that point to me makes no sense because Mike Baker was in the CIA. I don't know how high up he was. I think pretty high, but that doesn't mean that he was read in on something. And something we need to always keep in mind as people who follow this subject is you don't know what you don't know. So just because Mike Baker and his personal experience did not find that secrets were able to they were not able to be kept well maybe they were secrets you weren't read in on, that you wouldn't even be able to fathom something that you don't know anything about. You would, if I'm in the CIA and I go through this entire career, decades long, and I never hear anything about aliens or a crash retrieval program, That, on all likelihood, just means that I didn't have the clearance. I wasn't in the know with the right people, and I wasn't briefed or read in on that subject. It doesn't mean that just because in your own personal experience the government was bad at keeping secrets and so they couldn't keep a secret this big. I would totally disagree. I do think that they could keep a secret this big. They've done it before in the past, just not for as long. I mean, let's talk about the Manhattan Project. They kept that under wraps almost entirely. And let's just cover this one, the JFK assassination. It has been, 60-something years, 50, 60-something years since JFK was assassinated, and we still don't have the entire redacted documents. We don't know even 80% of the truth of that entire situation. I'm not alleging what the answer to it was. I don't really follow that subject all that closely, but my point is they can keep secrets, and just because you might not be able to fathom that doesn't mean that it's true. The JFK assassination happened decades and decades ago, and we still don't have answers. And that is just a small example of a secret that they've kept very, very, very well. I think if they have the proper motivation, the proper incentive, damn right, the government will keep it a secret. They will only let in the people they need to, and they will threaten, coerce, make them sign NDAs. It's not that complicated. The government are the ones in power, and if they were to have a secret that is so powerful that it could change the paradigm of society, you better believe they will do the due diligence to keep it secret. Now, I do simultaneously believe the government is rather incompetent, so I understand that sentiment. And again, I'm not speaking from a position of authority. I could be wrong on this. I definitely could be. But my opinion and the way that I feel about it is just that, yeah, if they have the proper motivation and the secret is big enough, they will cover it up for as long as they possibly can. And then the flip point of that is people say, oh, they couldn't keep the secret. Well, there's been many leakers. I mean, let's just cover what Bob Lazar alleged. Bob Lazar was able to describe we'll just give the example of the Tic Tac incident in 2004 with the Nimitz incident. How was Bob Lazar from the 80s able to describe this tech almost down to a perfection about how it moved, what it did, et cetera, and he described that decades before the incident that the government was able to capture on film. And how would he be privy to that information? What, he just made it up? I mean, if that guy is that good at just making shit up and it ends up coming true, I mean, that is profound. That is absolutely incredible. So if that's not true and, the government was not keeping the secret, then how did Bob figure that out so many decades in advance of what we've witnessed? It just, to me, it doesn't add up. And it's the theory that they could be our own tech. That's really what I want to cover the most is, the theory that they are American technology. I think there's a couple plot holes in that point. The first one being, if that was the case, if they were our own technology, why on earth would they be flying them constantly around our own military and getting spotted and getting sighted and getting tracked on radar, and then also on top of that going around civilians all over the place? The Phoenix Lights incident where hundreds of thousands of people saw the craft. I mean, why on earth would they be doing that? I can't see a logical reason as to why you would be constantly showing them around military bases and military personnel and even civilians if your attempt was to keep this a secret. Maybe it's to slowly indoctrinate the military and show them that this tech is possible, but that opens up a whole nother can of worms that I think leads to even more confusing speculation if you're going to tie yourself to that theory. And another thing with this, there's many points about this, but if this is our own tech, why on earth have we not used it to dominate our adversaries? This technology, if it's ours, why would we have not used it in a war? I mean, we're in like a very, very fierce competition with China right now, very fierce competition with Russia. And if we had something that could literally surpass them in every way possible, I mean, just look at the Manhattan Project with the nukes. We made the nuke and we used it in like 7 minutes afterwards. And granted, we were at war then, that is true. But my point is, when the tech is designed, do you think they design it to not use it, to hold on to it forever when they have something that's so powerful? Not only would it change the military implications and they could dominate anybody in a heart. You could probably send 30 of those craft over to China and that would be the end of China, and there you go. Now you have no rival that is plotting to take you over. So you could handle that problem in an afternoon if you really had craft this advanced and this this is just the craft. God only knows what tech this is connected to besides the maneuvering and capabilities of actual craft. This tech could obviously be engineered and pushed into any field, such as weaponry, and God only knows what else. So why would they never use it? I think it's very counter to the condition of people in power. When they got it, they used it. When we made the nukes, we used them. If they've been holding onto this tech for as long as the UFO phenomenon has been alleged, I just don't see a reason why they would create something so profound and then never use it, at least never use it in a way that has an impact enough that we can even recognize what's going on. I find that to be very, very hard to believe, and it's kind of counter to what people in power do. The nukes are one small example, but when we make the tech, we use the tech. Maybe not at first. Yes, of course, there's a lag time. Even I think we've all heard the military's technology is 25 to 30 years ahead of civilian technology. We always hear that, but I mean, this is going on for damn near 100 years. So you're telling me they've kept this tech for damn near 100 years and never broke it out for the Cuban Missile Crisis, never used it against Russia, never used it against China, never used it in any war? I mean, I just don't understand the rationale for that. And not only that, that's the military capability and implications of it, but now let's talk about the civilian sector. Obviously, the government and private aerospace, they want to make money. Obviously, it's so much of what happens in control in the government and all this is centered around profits and money. So not only would this change the way we would fight wars, but it would absolutely completely change the way that we exchange goods, the way that, I mean, the implications are endless. The energy, we constantly hear about how this could create free energy, and obviously we know the government would not want free energy. That's how they kind of keep us in check. Our overlords keep us in check with the the commodities and goods and resources that we need to survive. They keep them over top of us, and that's a good way to keep themselves in power for sure. But there's obviously a way to monetize this. If this was tech that they made, and there's obviously a way to monetize it, and to they could go from shipping goods from China, importing goods, and it'd take a week by ship to then 20 minutes from China to here if you got one of these crafts. So it would change everything as far as transportation. It would change everything as far as energy. It would change everything as far as how we transport goods. And I guarantee you I'm not even scratching the surface of what's possible if this tech was ours. And if this tech is ours, and they're keeping it secret for this long, why? What's the origins? The only reason I could think why you would do that is because the origins of the technology are something that would disturb the American public and the world at large greatly. Why else? If it's, for example, the nukes, I mean, yeah, they kept it secret for however long they kept it secret, but it came out, and that's, let's just cover the capability of nuclear weapons. It's enough to destroy humanity. So does it get any worse than that? Does it get any more scary than, hey, we have something where we can press a button and eviscerate an entire country in 5 minutes? Does it get any worse than that? I don't think so. So why would they be covering up this tech? And if so, if this was our tech, where on earth did you get it from? Where did you get technology from? You made it that defies physics? I mean, it's possible. It is possible. It's just so unlikely, in my opinion. It's so unlikely. It's like I said, I think it's counter to the natural inclination of people in power. And it just doesn't add up to me. I'm open to hearing counter perspectives. I don't claim to be right. I just think when I was sitting there listening to Mike Baker and Joe Rogan talk about this, I thought they were missing out on several points, and Joe even said, he's like, my gut just tells me this is wrong. And I don't know why. He even said that. He said he doesn't know why, but he just feels like this whole thing is bullshit. And my point to that would be, man, a lot of people think that. And my take on it is that it's just not unfolding in the way that you have been conditioned to believe that it would unfold, or you anticipated it would unfold, with an alien being next to Biden on the White House lawn and them saying we're not alone on a national TV broadcast. Just because it's not happening thus far, it could change, but just because it's not happening that way so far doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, how often, I said this in a few episodes back, how often does something happen in our lives and the event unfolds completely differently than we anticipated, than we thought it would be like, or maybe we were even certain, we were very sure something would unfold in a certain way, and it almost happens in the polar opposite way. In my life, it happens all the time. I'm sure it happens to you guys as well, I would imagine. So that inclination of, oh, my gut tells me this is wrong. Well, your gut is based on nothing. It's just based on you having perceived notions of how you think something should be. And when it doesn't match that, then you just call bullshit on it. So I think that's a lazy approach. No hate to Mike Baker or Joe Rogan. At the end of the day, this is a confusing, nuanced topic, and anything is possible. I could be wrong about everything I just said right there. But if we're just talking probability, I think it's lower on the outcome of probabilities that this is American technology that we've been keeping secret, and we're just so great that we've never used it in a war. We've never used it to dominate our rivals. We're just hiding it for one special day, and we've had it for almost 100 years. I just think it's a very, very far stretch. It's as far a stretch as Project Bluebeam, in my opinion. So that's a complicated topic. I'm open to hearing a counterpoint to it. I really am. It's just, I think that if you were covering this tech up and, we made it, what's the origins of this technology? The only reason I can think of why you would be hiding it from the American people is that the origins of the technology is nefarious or something that we couldn't handle, something along those lines. There's a lot of possibilities to this phenomenon. We know that. Project Bluebeam is possible. American tech is possible. Technology from our adversaries is possible. Beings from another galaxy, solar system is possible. Beings who have been here the whole time, living within the Earth or living in the oceans or living in another dimension. These are all possibilities, absolutely. We know so little at this point that we can't close off any possibility. I just think the rationale that I keep seeing everywhere online and was even covered in the Rogan episode with Mike Baker, that the government can't keep a secret, and if anything, it's our tech. I see no evidence to believe that. I see nothing that leads me to believe that. I think it's much more likely that this is either something the American government doesn't understand, and that's why they don't want us to know about it. Maybe they don't even have a grips on the gravity of the situation. You just don't know. Or if it's our adversaries, again, why have our adversaries not used it to dominate it? You think China and Russia, if they had 5 of these damn things, you don't think that they would be using them against us? We're the most powerful nation in the world, and we have quite a few competitors who have wanted nothing more than to take us down. We all know that. And you're telling me that this is China's and they haven't sent 50 of these things to the White House and just obliterated us and taken over our country? I mean, how could you fight back against something like this? We don't even see the weaponry that's attached to this kind of technology. We only see the maneuverability and the capabilities of the actual flying. But again, as I said, that's just scratching the damn surface of what's possible. So I don't know. I want your guys' thoughts on this. I just think that it's not unfolding in a way that people predicted. And again, as I mentioned, if we've had this tech, how the F did Bob Lazar know and describe this so many decades in advance if this is horseshit? How did he describe the technology? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I don't think people like David Grush and Bob Lazar have a motive. Now, you know who does have a motive to lie and keep it secret? The government. And for numerous reasons. One, if we find out they're not the top of the food chain, they have no ability to protect us, and there's these beings that have way advanced tech, and they could pretty much smoke us whenever they wanted or manipulate society and however they wanted, and the government is damn near powerless to stop it. Well, then that would be a good reason to keep it secret, right? That's a motive. The government doesn't want to look like they're not the top dog. They don't want to admit that ever. So there's a motive. Now, for David Grush, what's the motive? He's not making money from this. He's kind of ruining his own career for this. He's being absolutely ridiculed. His medical documents are getting leaked. I mean, what's the motive? What's the motive for Bob Lazar? He's been nothing but trashed by people for decades over this. Never made any money, never wrote a tell-all book. What's the motive? We have to look at motive and intent, and I only see negative and nefarious intent and motive from the government, not these whistleblowers, not these people who are coming out and saying it. And then the other thing you always hear is, well, why hasn't it come out then? It has come out 100 times over, and you don't believe it. Doesn't matter how credentialed the whistleblower, it doesn't matter their resume, their credibility, their intelligence. You just discredit it and say they're lying and they're fake and they're grifters. It's the same thing every time. David Grush, I mean, he was the one handing the presidential daily briefing over. I mean, could you get more credible? He's a veteran from Afghanistan. He has the highest security clearance you can hold, and even that is not enough to convince you all. Not you all, but you know what I mean, the population at large. Even that is not enough to convince you. Oh, you just discredit him. Oh, he's crazy. Oh, he wants attention. He wants money. No, there's no motive for that. There's no motive, whereas the American government has all the motive to keep this secret for a variety of reasons. They have all the motive, they have all the intention, and we can see them lying. I mean, we saw the shell company of Arrow pop up that's doing absolutely nothing to investigate this. We saw John Kirby's statement where they kept asking him about David Grush, and he just brushed right over it like it was nothing and said, oh, we take the UAPs seriously, and that's why we created a Arrow to document the cases. They asked you about David Grush, buddy, and about the alleged retrieval of crashes, the programs that exist. He asked you about that, and you just breezed right over it. So why would you behave in such a manner if you were being transparent with the American people? And if this is our technology, wouldn't you be using it? Why would you just be hiding it like you're a Mother Teresa and you just want the world to stay as it is, and you just want to do the right thing, and you don't want this to be used as a weapon? And no, the government doesn't have no moral righteous leg to stand on. We know that. Come on, don't fall for this. Don't fall for this, guys. And if you have a counterpoint, I'll listen to it, man. As I said, Project Bluebeam. Beings from within the Earth, from another dimension, beings from another galaxy who have the tech to travel here, or I guess American tech or adversarial technology. It is possible, just not probable, guys. That's pretty much all I have today. I just really wanted to address it because there was a lot of points on that podcast episode that just were missing the mark. And just because this isn't unfolding in the way that our brain has been conditioned to believe by watching 1,000 movies on it, and reading books on it, and imagining what we think it would be like, just because it doesn't happen in that way that you foresee doesn't mean it's not legitimate. I think there's a power struggle going on right now. I don't know if there's a managed disclosure attempt from the government as a whole, but there is clearly specific whistleblowers who believe that this needs to get out to the American public. And until I'm proven otherwise, I don't see a motive for them to lie. I don't think they're fools. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's just another thing Joe said is, he's like an honest fool. He's just being tricked with disinformation and he's sharing it. People always say this: I believe that he believes what he thinks, but that doesn't mean it's real. Guys, these are the people in the top. They reach the pinnacle of government. They're not dummies. They don't work at Marathon, okay? They literally have gone through decades and decades of training specifically against countering disinformation. And my point is, these guys know what they're doing. You don't reach the top of the government by being an absolute goober. The counterpoint to that would be our president, who somehow hit the lottery and did reach the top of the presidency with being an absolute goober. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoy this type of content, do me a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click follow. If you're listening to the audio only on Spotify podcasts or Apple podcasts, just click follow, leave me a 5-star review. And lastly, if you'd like to be a part of a small but growing community where we talk about these topics every day, we bring up news, share stories, share our experiences, ask questions, and just kind of get to know other people around the world who share the same interest and the same fascination in maybe one of, two of, or all three of these subject areas. I created a Discord group called Mixed Martial Arts, go figure. The link is in the description of this video. You can just click it, follow it. We only got about 14 to 15 members, but we're going to be doing some fun stuff as it grows, watching the UFC fights together, gaming, having little discussions like this where you guys can actually talk as well. It's not just me spewing a monologue out. So that's something that really interests me, and I'm looking forward to seeing that grow. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Not sure what we're going to be covering yet. There's so much news going on in all these areas. So check back in the morning. You will see something new. I promise you that. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace out, fellow Martians.